Good evening and time once again for another edition of the Kaufman Corner podcast. I guess I could say good afternoon, good morning, depending upon when you're consuming it. If you're catching us via the podcast, remember you can be a part of the conversation. We do it normally on Sundays at 9 o'clock, coming to you on a Monday. So we got out of the way of the Super Bowl. We're going to talk about the tragic passing of Terrence Gore. That's one of the things that we will get into. Just 34 years old and dying in surgery for what should have been routine. Rany, I know, has some thoughts on that. We want to get into it. Then we're going to basically conduct a draft. We'll each be throwing out what we want to see at spring training. We may have some commonality here. We're going to go with the 8 things for each that we want to see out of the Royals spring training. We're doing it right here, right now on Kaufman Corner.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner Podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro. Rany is a co-founder of Baseball Prospectus, author of Rany on the Royals, and a former columnist for Grantland, The Ringer, and The Athletic. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. And now, here are your hosts, Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running. And Rany, we do start with some sad news, very sad news. Just 34 years old, Terrence Gore, passing away in what should have been a routine surgery. Heartbreaking to hear this.
Yeah, this was not the topic that I ever imagined we'd open the show with. And just another gut punch that we really, that 2014-2015 Royals team, was always going to be probably the most special sports team I've ever rooted for, just because of all the history that went into that, the 29 years of futility and the lack of expectations. And you want to hold on to a team like that forever. And you can't. You know that the memories are going to fade. But to me, that era, ended suddenly. I think it was a Sunday morning, and I woke up to the sound of my phone pinging, and it was a text from Curtis Ebel with just the words, "Did you see the news about Giordano?" ? Exclamation point. And no text with that can end well, and it didn't. And to me, that era, I mean, the 2017 Royals were still very competitive and were probably one starting pitcher away from the playoffs, but that era sort of died the moment that Giordano Ventura did, because it was not just, tragic and unexpected, but like Giordano Ventura was one of the youngest members of that team. And you just think these guys are immortal. They're going to play forever. They're going to certainly live forever. So to have this happen again 9 years later, and yes, Terrence Gore is retired and he hasn't been a Royal in a while, but like my memory of this is those two guys, Giordano Ventura and Terrence Gore, were two of the 3 youngest members of the 2014 Royals. The only player on that who appeared in a game that season who was younger than those two, because they were both 23 that year, was Brandon Finnegan, the college lefty turned wild card game saving reliever. I mean, Terrence Gore was younger than Salvador Perez, who's still playing, still a Royal. And yeah, it just seems so. It's tragic. It's senseless. Routine surgery, and I imagine we'll find out more about what was going on and how this could have happened. But as Kansas City sports fans, I mean, we're not strangers to this sort of senseless, tragedy. We've seen it with Chiefs players in the past dying. I believe the Chiefs had a great young player in the 70s who died from a blood clot, I want to say, after routine surgery, back before we really had ways of preventing those sorts of things, maybe. Obviously, Joe Delaney and the tragic drowning that occurred there. But it just seems he was everybody's little brother on that team. That's the other thing, is that the position he held was unique because he wasn't a starter. In fact, he didn't get, I don't know if he got in at bat, but he certainly did not get a hit, for either the 2014 or 2015 Royals. And it says something that a position player who never got a hit was considered like a cult hero for a team that went to 2 World Series and won one. It's not the reason why those teams were great, but I think it's the reason why those teams are so memorable, not just to Royals fans, but to baseball fans. The kind of team they were is that Terrence Gore was legitimately a folk hero of sorts, because he knew he knew what he was there to do. He knew what his job was. He did it brilliantly. And he did it with a smile on his face. And it was just, it's sad. And I feel terrible for his wife and children and family and everyone involved. And it just, you saw the outpouring when this occurred throughout baseball, but certainly, especially with Royals fans, Royals players, Eric Hosmer. There are a lot of guys who I think were really hit hard by this because they really did love him. And he was, everything I've heard about him, he was a great human being. He wasn't a star baseball player, but he was better at what he did than maybe anybody I've ever seen on a baseball field.
There are great careers like George Brett's, and that's what everybody wants, when you're a little kid to be the Hall of Famer, to be that. But the majority of the guys in the game don't have those kind of careers, right? And, they have varying different levels of success. But he is one of those guys. I've talked about this with Mark Boericker's career as a wide receiver, having a 99-yard touchdown catch, having the most touchdowns. I call it the rookie touchdown receiving record, but because he played in the CFL, the Chiefs don't recognize him as a rookie, so they don't recognize his 8 touchdowns as the record. That's a great, his career is not a Hall of Famer. He's not Jerry Rice, but, he made a mark, right? And that's Terrence Gore. Terrence Gore's career is not George Brett. He's not a Hall of Famer. But to be able to play the game, to get to the big leagues in any way, shape, or form. Our friend Les Norman, who we talk about, he always kind of puts down. He said something really great. He always kind of jokes about, well, my couple of days in the big leagues or what have you. And he said, he had some friends that played with him in the minors that never got to the big leagues, and they told him, stop doing that, because you made it, you got to the big leagues. That is, we're proud of you. That is a big deal for us that we played with you and you got to the big leagues. And so he still jokes about it, but he goes, I understand, where they're coming from on this. And so Terrence Gore has kind of one of those careers where it's like, well, he has more World Series rings than RBIs, right? He has 3 rings and 1 RBI. I mean, but what he did for the teams that he played for was fantastic, right? He was a weapon. How many people can say that they were a weapon when, they played in postseason baseball? So many guys played, much, much longer and never even saw the postseason. He was a weapon. Teams sought him out. We're a postseason team. We need that final piece. We need Terrence Gore. And he could really just take over an inning, right? I mean, it's a fantastic career. He's one of the guys, and then just everybody loved him. Warm smile. Mike Swanson tweeted out that, he goes, I can just see that great smile. He said, I'm heartbroken right now. And, just an all around, he really was kind of almost like the team mascot, Like he was like I love the way you put it. Everybody's little brother. Because he's only 5'7". That's another reason to love the guy. Because here he is with 6'4", 6'5", Eric Hosmer and big old Salvi, and here's this little guy coming in and making a difference and making an impact on those teams, on those playoff teams, and certainly on the Kansas City Royals. That it was how much fun would we have had? Would you have had at fantasy camp with Terrence Gore? One day, having him come back and be in one of the interview sessions when the Royals do their Royal Rally, to start the year, when they bring the 15 team back and they celebrate and talk to guys and, that's all gone. It's all been taken from us. And it's tragic.
It's really sad. There's just two more things I want to say about it. One is like, even if he had never appeared in a playoff game, the one moment he gave us, let me take you back to September 15th of 2014. So just 2 weeks after he'd been called up from the minor leagues. And one of the things that made him so special was from the moment the 2014 Royals started caught fire in the summer, and it looked like, wait, this team might actually have a chance to be the one, right? The one that finally makes the playoffs. Like Terrence Gore was, not hitting in the minor leagues, but his speed was such a discussed weapon in the minor leagues. I mean, he was an A-ball when that season started, and stole 36 bases in 40 attempts, jumped straight to AAA. And I remember at that moment that the thinking was, are the Royals looking at adding this guy in September? Because this was back when I think you could have 40-man rosters, everybody active in September. And could this guy be a pinch running weapon for the stretch run? Mm-hmm. So we were already thinking about it, already hoping the Royals would do this. And they brought him up, I think it was August 31st, right before the September expansion. They brought him up. And he had already made a couple pinch running appearances, I think scored a couple runs. September 15th, the Royals are 2 games behind the Tigers in the division. They are a half game up on Seattle for the final wild card spot. 2 weeks left in the season. They have not been this close to the playoffs since 1985. And they are down a run to the lowly White Sox, who they were pretty bad that year. I can't remember the record, but it was it was a home game. They should not be losing to the White Sox team. They were down a run, 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th. And they had the tying run at second base. Mike Moustakas had doubled, so Jarrod Dyson had pinch run. And Dyson does something you never do. You're told never to do. Steal third base with 2 outs. Why on earth would you do that, right? But he stole third base. And at that moment, Jac Caglianone threw a wild pitch. And Jarrod Dyson never stopped running and scored the tying run when the Royals were down to their final out. Right? That alone was the most exciting moment I had, seen in years. Then Nori Aoki, who was batting, doubled. So I guess maybe it didn't matter, right? He doubles. They pinch run for him. And it's funny because Ned Yost hated using pinch hitters. We talk about Alcides Escobar always batting in the 9th inning when the Royals were losing. He wouldn't use a pinch hitter. But he was perfectly fine with using a pinch runner. And so Nori Aoki comes out, and here comes Terrence Gore. And Lorenzo Cain's batting. And on an 0-2 pitch, Cain chops a ball towards the mound, but on a high chopper. And right before the pitch, Gore does what Dyson was doing, which was attempt to steal third base. If you watch the highlight, Brian Lefevre is he's going and Cain hits this chopper. And I remember in the moment, my first thought was not, Cain could beat this out. Immediately, my thought is, oh my God, Terrence Gore could score because, if this gets through, if Cain is safe, forget about that, he's got a chance to score. And the ball bounced over the pitcher's mound. The second baseman and shortstop kind of converged, and there was a little momentary confusion as to who's to field it. But what struck me was, it's not just that Terrence Gore scored. They didn't even throw.
Yeah.
And I mean, I will remember, this is, before I'd ever tasted a postseason game, before the wild card madness, before everything that came after it. This moment here, I'm quoting from my tweet. I keep my tweets on Twitter for precisely this purpose. This is what I tweeted at the moment that was done, as soon as he scored. Oh, no big deal. Just the single greatest moment I've experienced as a Royals fan in 29 years. And that was not sarcasm. That was not hyperbole. That was absolutely the truth. The Royals had just stolen a game in a pennant race, something completely foreign to them, doing something that, you dream about, but no team actually executes, using two pinch runners to perfection. And so I'll always be grateful for that moment, which kind of, set up and prefaced and heralded the madness of the next two postseasons. And then the second thing I just want to say about Terrence Gore is, maybe he didn't have a long career or incredibly great career, but he had a hugely impactful career for me personally, because he actually single-handedly made me change my mind about a principle of baseball. Because until Terrence Gore, I thought that it was not worth a roster spot to hold on to a pinch runner. That pinch runners could basically not have enough of value to justify, keeping one of your bench spots purely for a guy who can run.
Well, let's be clear. He really changed. He was the inspiration to changing the rule about how many guys you can have available.
He very, very well had an impact, I think. I don't know. I haven't seen it explicitly, but I have no doubt that, that was the thinking at the time. And certainly a couple of years after that, when they changed the rule to a 26-man roster, my first thought was, this is great for the Royals, because they want to use, they have an emphasis on base running prowess and speed, and it changes the equation for having a pinch runner, not just in September, but all year round. But I think the reason why I was kind of biased against it is because the guy who probably pushed for that rule, or pushed for that role, I should say, having a pinch runner on the roster all the time, more than anyone else, was Charlie Finley, right? Who is not popular around baseball in general as an owner, but especially in Kansas City, because this show is a show about the Kansas City Royals and not the Kansas City Athletics. So a distinctly unpopular person locally, but was a guy absolutely obsessed as the owner of the Oakland A's with having pinch runners on his roster. And famously, Herb Washington, is famous to this day as a pinch runner for the 74-75 A's, who scored 33 runs in his career and never once got a plate appearance. But he wasn't the only guy. Right. There were other players. And Charlie Finley, I mean, literally, there's a quote Charlie Finley gave to a newspaper that he thought pinch runners helped the A's win 15 more games in a season, which is an absolutely absurd statement, because the A's won 3 straight World Series, 72, 73, 74. He was basically saying without pinch runners, they would have been a below 500 team. Yeah. That's the kind of blowhard Charlie Finley was.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
And if you're an old enough Kansas City fan, back when he was a Kansas City A's owner, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But so he was so over the top ridiculous with it and so offensive in so many ways. I think he really kind of soured the sport on this one good idea he had, which is, what? A pinch runner can actually be a really useful thing. The thing about Herb Washington, though, is he was incredibly fast, was not a baseball player, and didn't have actual base running skills. He stole 31 bases in his career. He got caught 17 times.
Yeah.
It's not clear to me that he actually helped his team. In fact, according to Baseball Reference, he hurt his team in terms of the number of, he cost them 2 runs on the bases.
Yeah.
And in the playoffs, he was caught stealing twice and never stole a base. So, so my point is, it was, I think a maxim in the sport that, pinch runners are nice, but you don't really want to waste an entire roster spot on them.
Yeah.
But Terrence Gore changed that. And here's the thing. In all of baseball history, he's only the second player ever with at least 50 plate appearances. So not an Herb Washington type, but somebody's actually batted, who had more runs scored than times on base and more steals than times on base.
Yeah.
The other one was Matt Alexander, who was another player for the A's in the 70s. But here's the thing. Those are the only two players that have ever done it. There currently is a third. And that third player is Tyler Tolbert. And I don't assume that he will maintain that for his entire career. He's only played one season in the major leagues. But I just thought, what an incredible tribute to what Terrence Gore was and to how the Royals used him. That, like, Tyler Tolbert, from the moment he was in the minor leagues, and again, not much of a hitter, but incredible base runner. I think every Royals fan looked at this guy's like, can this guy be a weapon? Like we said, a weapon on a team that is going to the playoffs. And that, I mean, Tyler Tolbert right now, I absolutely, if the Royals go to the playoffs, which you and I think both expect that they will in 2026, I absolutely expect Tyler Tolbert to sprinting in from the dugout in a late in the game, in the playoffs, and he will be honoring Terrence Gore's legacy when he does so.
For sure. R.I.P. Terrence Gore. Certainly far too young at 34 years old. We will take a break, and when we come back, we will get into what we want to see at spring training. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot.
Now at Whataburger, you can get the new Big Ranch Wrap for $3, 5 premium Whata chicken bites for $4, or a bacon cheese Whataburger Jr. for $5. Add fries and a drink for a little more. Now that's a Whata deal at Whataburger. Download the app.
Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, let's start our draft, Rany. We are basically going to be drafting what we want to see out of spring training. So we're looking ahead as spring training opens later this week. And what do we want to see? We did a coin flip. You won the coin flip. So you will have the first pick in what you want to see. So, Rany, lay it on me. What's the first thing?
So the first thing I want to see, I mean, I know it's a cliche to say, we want to see everybody healthy.
And by the way, everybody, like the whole, we're not going to go through and name the top 8 players. Bobby Wood Jr. staying healthy, right? That just staying healthy is not there, but I think I know where you're going to go.
Well, but specifically, what I want to point out 3 guys specifically that I'm going to be looking at that I want to see throwing free and easy: Seth Lugo, Ryan Bergert, and Chris Bubic, and probably in that order. Like, if I know right now, all 3 of those guys make it through spring training and they're ready to go 100%, no limitations. Honestly, I think almost everything else on my list is gravy. Like those 3 guys in that order, because Lugo's, obviously a core member of the rotation and under contract for the next 2 years. And Bergert, maybe in an ideal world, he goes back to Omaha, but what we saw from him before his elbow started to bark last year, or I should say his forearm, but forearm is attached to the elbow, was so impressive that, I mean, I in an ideal world, I mean, if you want to say more than just healthy, if Ryan Bergert earns a rotation spot, you want to know what I want to see. I want to see him pitch so well he earns the 5th spot, because I actually think Ryan Bergert has more upside than maybe we're giving him credit for. But I think it starts with him being healthy. And that elbow, he's the one I'm most concerned about, because forearm tightness can lead to Tommy John. whereas Lugo was a back issue. Bubic, it was more a shoulder. I expect they will be healthy, but those three guys specifically. And let's keep in mind, Seth Lugo is pitching in the World Baseball Classic for Puerto Rico, which is, a potential wrench in all these plans. Anytime you have a starting pitcher in the World Baseball Classic, you worry a little bit that they're, getting their arms stretched out, et cetera. And suddenly they're pitching very meaningful baseball in early March. So it's an added wrinkle here, but that's the number one thing I'm looking for by far.
Yeah. And I had Chris Bubic just alone as the one, and I'll focus on his part of it. I think I agree with everything you said. For me though, Bubic will remain a trade target. And, I think you went through Bergert and everything, but if Bubic is throwing well, they can be in the race. And if he's throwing well in spring training, he could still be traded in spring training, right? So if he is proving that he's healthy, they have a trade piece. If they're still looking for the outfield bat, and if they're in contention, and there could be just an old school baseball trade, the bat, the arm for the bat. It doesn't happen very often these days. Usually someone's selling and someone's buying. But And even if they just have depth of pitching, and they would then go ahead and move him in season for prospects and say, like, listen, we've got plenty of pitching. We're going to do this, but you can't do it if he's not healthy. Right. And if he's healthy and he would pitch the whole year in the rotation, that's a badass staff. Mm-hmm. Right. So to me, Chris Bubic, whether it's, one in the door on his way out, pitching in the postseason and hopefully in a World Series, as part of one of the best rotations in baseball. Like if Cole Reagans throws the way he threw at the end, Chris Bubic throws the way he was throwing, this rotation is looking outstanding. So that can't happen without Chris Bubic being healthy. So yes, I'm in total agreement with that. All right, I will give you then number 2 on my list. Jac Caglianone making consistent contact. Right, I want to know that he has put in the work. And when we watch him in spring training, the powers, if he hits the ball, it's going to go far. So, when he's swinging, he's not just waving at high fastballs that he can't get up to. I want to see that he is making consistent contact. I don't really care what the numbers are as long as he is not whiffing all the time. If we start spring training and he's striking out at some abnormally high rate, then all of a sudden it doesn't look like it fits anymore. Right? Because now you're missing an outfielder, right? And you're missing the guy that can actually change this offense and make it special. So to me, Jac Caglianone has to be making consistent contact.
He's fourth on my list. Is basically
fourth on your list.
Well, what I have it as Jac Caglianone secures the right field job. Like, okay, we're taking for granted. I mean, which goes hand in hand with that. But we're sort of assuming that he is, going to be the everyday right fielder. But do they platoon him? Is he playing every day? Like, I think if they want him to develop at the major league level, I really would like to see him playing against lefties and righties, and I want to see him earn it. Another wrinkle here, and we haven't really talked about the World Baseball Classic, but it actually does have quite a bit of an impact on the spring training. He's on Team Italy, and thanks to his paisano Vinny Pasquantino, he is listed as an outfielder on the Italian World Baseball Classic roster, which is probably for the best, because yes, he needs some reps in the outfield. And on the one hand, that's going to take him away from World Spring Training and facing major league caliber pitching for the better part of 2 weeks. Even if they don't get out of the group stage, they're going to play 4 games. It's interesting. I think they're in the same pool as Brazil and Great Britain. So he's going to be seeing some, minor league pitching there, but also Mexico and the United States. They will be playing against USA. So he might be getting a game with tremendous stakes added. This is not an exhibition. These are
how many teams advance out of the group stage?
I believe each pool, there's 5 teams in a pool. There's 4 pools, the top 2. So I'm assuming it's USA and Mexico, but I mean, Italy very well could be the 3rd best team. I think, in fact, they probably are on paper. But could they? I don't expect them to beat Mexico or beat USA, because again, he might face Paul Skeens or Tarek Skubal in that game, or if not, he might face his teammate Michael Wacha, and I think it's Logan Webb is the 3rd starter. Team USA for the first time has absolutely elite pitching, but could they upset Mexico? and move on. Like, I think that would actually be fun. And I think I'm going to be, there's a fair number of, Vinny and Caglianone alone would make me root for Team Italy. I think there's a couple of guys, maybe the Royals, one or two minor leaguers, I think might be also on this team. Michael Lorenzen, that's the other guy who's in their rotation. Former Royal, we root for him here. So it'll be interesting because he's going to be these games. On the one hand, yeah, he's away from the Royals. On the other hand, you know what? Playing games that actually matter. The more stakes than any game he probably played with the Royals last year. Like, actually, it almost might be a good mental reset because he has to stop focusing on development and just focus on producing. Find a way to get on base. Find a way to get a hit against a tough pitcher, and hopefully he'll gain some confidence from that and come back to spring training, and feel secure that job. But yes, I agree that like him performing in spring training. One of the worst things that could happen in spring training is that Jac Caglianone is so bad that they send him back to AAA.
Yes,
that would be a big thud to our playoff plans.
And they carried him in the big leagues last year when he was not putting up numbers, right? Because they didn't want to have to send him back. And if now you come around and it's the same old, it starts to get pretty scary. So I mean, I think, and then it starts to get in his head. So if he could be hitting well in spring training, I think that's the best thing all around for everybody involved. All right, number 3.
So mine
is it would be number 2 on your list. This
yes.
is number 3 for us.
Yes. So my number 2 is actually very similar. It's Carter Jensen establishes himself as a hitter and as a catcher. Like that's the thing that I think that we are assuming because he played so well last year and they're so high on him that like Carter Jensen is going to be, if not the start of it, like in a job share arrangement with Salvador Perez. He's not going to be, back in Omaha. He's not going to be a DH, moving to the outfield. He's going to be a catcher at least 30-40% of the time this year. But we need to see that in spring training. He's going to get an opportunity because guess what? Salvador Perez playing in the World Baseball Classic for Team Venezuela. So there's going to be about a 10 to 14 day stretch where Carter Jensen is the number 1 guy. And so I'm very curious to make sure that it's not just that he's hitting, but that like they're happy with him behind the plate.
Yeah.
He's receiving well. He's working with the pitchers. If he can throw some base runners out, great. But really, it's really just about like him, the pitchers on the major league roster in spring training having confidence of throwing to him, that when Salvador comes back, they are in a 50-50 roughly job arrangement behind the plate.
My number 3 was Carter Jensen is catching well and looks the part. I think the hitting, I love that you did throw in the hitting as well. I think the hitting's going to be there, but I'm with you. I do think it's important for him to catch. I think the more he can catch, the fresher Salvador Perez will be and the better his bat will be. So I think it's really important for Carter Jensen to be able to catch and, to get at bats that way and to get rest for Salvador Perez and get him into the DH mode. So I'm with you. I think this is a really big one. And, all the reports are that, he's going to be good. But we want to see it, right? Because they didn't catch him a lot early on. And then they finally did. And I just think it takes this team to a much higher plane, right? If he is able to catch, because I'd love to see what Salvador Perez, I think if he catches well and Salvador Perez hits well, then Salvi might even be less likely to push. He might enjoy it. He might be like, okay, I'm still in the game. I'm still with the guys. I'm still in the clubhouse. I'm still producing offensively. I don't need to be squatting down behind, the plate as much. And so, but Carter Jensen's got to be able to catch. And so if he is doing that, then I think this team, again, all the pieces start to fit together. Like, there's no way the outfield works without Jac Caglianone right now with what they were able to get done, assuming they don't do anything else. And so then I think likewise, one of the ways you can get more offense is if Salvador Perez is, the best version of Salvador Perez. And so for them to really be a team that could contend to win a championship, Jac Caglianone probably needs to push towards 30 home runs. So does Salvador Perez. They need that depth of power, and Carter Jensen, I think, is the key to unlocking that in Perez. So I think it's just as important for Perez's, offense as it is, for Carter Jensen just to prove the catcher. And you'd like to know that Carter Jensen, that you've got the answer for what after Salvi.
Well, exactly. I mean, and the other thing is, just like we've operated all off season with this assumption that Caglianone will be the right fielder, and it's like, well, what if he isn't? Like, well, we're working under the assumption that any game Salvador Perez does not start at catcher, Carter Jensen starting at catcher. But if for whatever reason he's not, they have to send him to Omaha. They just decide he's not, he's MJ Melendez, the sequel or whatever. Like right now, that backup catcher is Luke Maley, probably. Right? They signed Jorge Alfaro as a minor league free agent. They've got Luca Tresh still, but we've been talking about how the catching position is such a strength because of this tandem of the two. But if Carter Jensen is unable to catch for whatever reason at the major league level in 2026, then the Royals are going to be tempted to run Salvador Perez out there 150 times behind the plate because they don't have Freddie Fermin anymore. And the pickings are very slim after Carter Jensen. So it is very important.
Yeah, very important. And I think, I feel pretty good that it's going to happen too. I mean,
yeah, I'm confident, but yeah, I think of all the things that could go wrong. Like spring training to me is I'm more worried about what can go wrong in spring training as opposed to what can go right. And we're kind of hitting on those things. So pitchers are hurt. Caglianone can't play right field for whatever reason. Carter Jensen can't catch. Those are the things that keep me up at night right now.
All right. It started getting harder for me to stack these after this, but number 4, I just put, the way I put it was Lucas Erceg is back getting Ks. Right. I want to see him getting back to being his most dominant self. And I think if he looks like he did coming down the stretch in 24, then the bullpen really starts to look like it's a strength. Right. And so I think it's really important for Lucas Erceg to be the best version of himself and to be a guy that you can bring into the game and know that the ball's not going to be in play. Right. I think to use him the way they want to use him as that fireman guy, you have to be able to get strikeouts, right? The ball cannot be in play. And so I want to see him getting back to getting the swing and miss, getting the punch outs, and so that they can deploy him the way they want to deploy him.
100%. That was 8th on my list. But yes, Lucas Erceg being right. Like, I give him tremendous credit that, like, despite not being right all of last season, or pretty much the whole, I think maybe in April he was getting some Ks, but not much after that. And yet, he had a superficially very good year, right? But I just don't think that's sustainable if he doesn't get that strikeout rate up again. And we've seen him do it before. He needs his velocity up another mile an hour, maybe. And I just think he lacked a little finish on his fastball as well, like in terms of elevation, some late rise. So yes, I'm very curious to see the strikeout numbers, but also like the StatCast metrics for him in spring training. Do they look more like the 2024 Lucas Erceg than the 2025 Lucas Erceg?
Yeah, I think that's important. All right, we're halfway through our list. We'll do a review. We'll talk about what didn't make it as well. I think that's an important part of the equation that we will get to. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Italian Delight. Italian Delight was the first restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. They sell whole pies or pizza by the slice, or enjoy their classic strombolis, calzones, and sausage rolls. Sandwich lovers, check out their lineup of hot and cold subs, the combo, the meatball, or the Philly cheesesteak, just to name a few. And don't forget the pasta. Their famous lasagna and classic chicken Alfredo always hit the spot. If you're hungry for lunch, check out their daily lunch specials, starting at under $10. Italian Delight can even cater your next work function or party. Dine in, carry out, or delivery, it's Italian Delight. Located just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave in KCK. Check out the menu and order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Kansas City's own Italian Delight. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. All right, let's start with number 5 as we get into the second half of our list of what we want to see at spring training. Rany, where are you going now? This would be number 3 on your list.
Yes, number 3 on my list. How do the Royals line up in left field and center field? And by that, I mean, they have Issac Collins and Kyle Isbell, but they also have Lane Thomas. They've also got Michael Massey. They've also got Nick Lofton. And especially with those last two guys, I mean, Michael Massey is, been on this team for a couple of years now. And if Jonathan India is, exclusively a second baseman, we're going to see a lot of Michael Massey in the outfield. And frankly, he might be the player that could benefit the most from the fences moving in. He had the highest launch angle, average launch angle of any Royal last year. I think his average launch angle was like 20 degrees. And at least anecdotally, I can think of a ton of warning track fly balls from him last year. So like when they announced the move in, I thought if anybody's going to benefit from this and might increase their odds of having kind of a breakout year, it's Michael Massey, but he's got to play somewhere. And I don't know where everyone's playing. Lane Thomas, is he just playing against lefties? Is he going to start against righties sometimes? Is he playing center field? Is he playing left field? Is he playing right field instead of Caglianone, right? Like, and then, Issac Collins, I think Issac Collins is a great pickup. Is he a 162 game guy or is he a 400 plate appearance guy? So like, is he starting against lefties or just against righties? He's a switch hitter, but he hit righties a little bit better. So they have a lot to figure out.
By the way, if you haven't noticed, Rany's playing hurt today as the voice.
I feel great. The voice not feeling great, but I feel good.
Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, so it's and then Nick Lofton is he going to be like a platoon guy in the outfield or not? So like I just feel like we don't have much clarity there, and that's one of those areas where just seeing the starting lineups against lefties and righties in spring training will give us some information.
Okay. I'm debating because you kind of mentioned this guy. I'm debating about whether or not I just skip what I had, which would be number 6, but number 5 on my list. I'll go ahead and do it. I mean, it dovetails off of that, but it's more specific. I have Issac Collins with a 350 plus on base percentage. Like, I think it's important, basically validating what he did last year. Validate however they're going to use him. And I think they're probably in the 350 to 400 at bat range is what their view is of him. But even to be that, he needs to get on base. Like, that's what they went and got him for. They're trying to increase the on base percentage, right? You asked JJ Piccolo that with our conversation last week about, hey, on base. And JJ said, yes, that is where we're trying to get to. That's what we're trying to do. And you can see why they got Collins. This is, part of the equation as to what they're doing. And so I want to see him continue to be, doing that kind of thing in spring training. That yes, he's taking pitches. Yes, he's drawing his walks. I want to feel good that, just like they got let down by Jonathan India, you're like, okay, we got a 350 guy to get on base and be at the top of the lineup. Somebody's got a bad leadoff, and it'd be really nice if somebody gets on base a lot in front of Bobby Wood Jr. And Collins could be that guy. Jonathan India could end up being that guy. But, I like the new shiny thing, right? We haven't seen him fail yet. So Team Issac Collins, let's go. Keep that on base up, and I think the Royals have got something.
Yeah, I mean, I originally my entry was just going to be about Issac Collins, and I decided to expand it. But the other thing is, you could expand it by saying one of the things we should be looking at: who is the leadoff hitter on this team, right? Like Issac Collins has like the right skill set for it, but we said that about Jonathan India last year. That didn't work out, and Issac Collins, I think notably, and it says something about how good the Brewers are, that they didn't need him to, but he did not lead off for the Brewers at all last year. I think he started like one game in a leadoff spot. But if not him, then who? So it'll be very interesting. And if not, where does he bat? So those are the things that I'll definitely be looking at. To me, Issac Collins is the fulcrum around which this whole question of left and center field kind of fits. Like, how much does he play? Does he need to be platooned? But if it turns out he's playing every day and playing really well and giving people optimism that he can actually build on his rookie year performance and that it wasn't not only not a fluke, but that he can actually improve, that would be a tremendous development.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're to number 7, which would be, as I'm looking at it, because I'm building your list, would be 5th on your list.
Correct. So 5th on my list. So I decided I wanted to have one minor league thing to go on this list.
Okay.
And one specific player. We talked about Caglianone, we talked about Carter Jensen. there's one specific player I want to hear really good reports about spring training, and that's Blake Mitchell. I want to hear that Blake Mitchell's healthy, and I want to hear that he's hitting bombs. That means that his Hammett bone is healed up, because like he's not the best prospect in the system. He's one of the best, but he's almost certainly the most polarizing prospect in the system. In fact, I believe Jim Callis over at MLB.com was asked, of all the players on their top 100, who was the most polarizing internally in terms of like, arguments between different minor league experts as to where to rank him. And his answer was the Royals' Blake Mitchell, because he had him in like the top 60. There were guys at MLB that didn't want him in the top 100. And the issue is, seems like the consensus, he can catch. He's a good defender. He has power, although he didn't show it last year, but he has power. He has a legitimate great batting eye. The hit tool is the question. And that's kind of the most important question you can have, because even if he can hit 230, 240 in the major leagues, that's an everyday starting catcher. That's an incredibly valuable property, especially for a team that already has.
Especially with the way he walks.
Yeah, with the way he walks and the fact that the Royals don't need him necessarily. Like, he's basically would be a Carter Jensen clone, and suddenly you have this tremendous trade commodity. But if he's going to hit 180 in the major leagues, then you don't have much. So seeing him finally healthy after a lost year, and hopefully showing power, real power, that would make me happy. And that is the one thing on the minor league side I'm really looking at.
Yeah, I like that. I didn't have anything down in the minors, but if he would show that, the other thing that it does is it gives you, again, the trade piece, right? And no one's going to trade for him if he's not hitting for power, or if he's not hitting at all. And so if you want to be able to go get something else, you need him to be playing well. So I like that. That was not on my list, but I like it. But I've got the last one. This is number 6 on my list. That's the last one we're gonna put up here, and I have Luinder Avila is a weapon and grabbing a spot in the bullpen and is a weapon, right? Like I think if Erceg and Estevez and Strom, you'd really like to have one more, and Avila is a guy that I think could be, one of the guys. Like if you're gonna get back to an HDH type of thing, he's one of the guys that I think would have that ability to be in that bullpen, and he brings kind of a different look as well. So I would like to see, because I think if that bullpen, the rotation's going to be good, if the bullpen's lights out too, and now you're just a team that, nobody can score on. And so, and if you'd have a fourth guy for the playoffs, now when you cut out the fluff, they look really rough. In a playoff series, it gets really hard to score on them. So Avila becoming a weapon out of the bullpen is number 8 on the list. That was number 6 on my list.
And my next one was essentially identical. It was basically someone steps up to take over the role of essentially number 4 reliever behind Estevez, Erceg, and Matt Strom, right? And that someone, I had Luinder Avila number 1 on my list, but it was him or Steven Cruz, or maybe Nick Mears or Alex Lang. Like they have options, but I agree. Luinder Avila is the best candidate based on what we saw last year in September. And some of this is, I think we all have an understandable uneasiness about a bullpen that ends with Carlos Estevez. Like he had a great year last year, but lived on the edge a little. Seems like the kind of guy who might suffer a little bit from the fences moving in, et cetera. So like, certainly by the end of the season, it would not surprise me if the top 3 relievers in that bullpen have been jumbled up a little bit.
Yeah.
And in which case, having someone like, if Luinder Avila can take his starter stuff and have it play up in the bullpen, he might be by, September, October, might not be pitching the 6th inning. He might be pitching the 8th, and would not shock me at all if he was pitching the 9th.
Right. Okay. So that means that there is one that didn't make the cut from your list.
So mine, which you kind of covered, was basically that they make a move in spring training, and you talked about the most likely thing being the Bubic trade. But I said, they add something else? It could be signing a free agent, and I should probably point this out. Adam Frazier is still available, and so at this point, I feel like that the most likely transaction we're going to see that adds somebody to the roster is just the Royals come to a 1-year deal with Adam Frazier. But could it be that they get into spring training and they're like, you know what, our outfield, this isn't enough, and they elect to make a move with prospects and trade for an outfielder. Might be connected to Blake Mitchell looking good, et cetera. Like, will that happen? I'm not saying I'm not saying I want that to happen. I mean, aside from a Bubic trade, if he's healthy, I'm not sure any of the other moves necessarily are things that would be good, but it certainly would have an impact on how the 2026 season goes.
So, like maybe Fernando Tatis. There you go. That's
hold on to that dream as tight as you can, Soren. Never mind that AJ Preller has basically said over my dead body, like.
Right, but also they withdrew. Who was it? Was it the sister or the wife? The wife, I think, of the Padres. Owner who passed. His brother wants to sell the team, but I think it was his wife, I can't remember if there was a sister. But anyway, she's withdrawn. Standing in the way of that, and so now it looks like the Padres are going to go up for sale. If they're going to go up for sale, they may be doing a fire sale to try to bring down, what the cost is for, their payroll.
Worked for the Twins. Not actually didn't work at all. But yes, if they do that, then all bets are off. Look, I'm still bitter because Luis Robert, the guy I wanted the Royals to trade for, was traded for a second baseman, and it wasn't Michael Massey, and he's like with the Mets now. I'm just like, see, it could have happened, but it didn't. The Royals were not there for it. So, but I still have a feeling where there's some member of the opening day roster is not in the Royals organization yet.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think, that's fair. I mean, and I'm with you. That would mean that they've upgraded things, right? So, that would be a fun thing to see. I had a couple of things that we didn't get to. One, Noah Cameron. Still holding his velocity, still looking like the guy he was last year, because, he was such a pleasant surprise. Now you're counting on him, right? So that would be part of it.
The velocity specifically, that is a very good point, because like as for all we diss him about, like, he's a finesse guy, his FIP was higher than his ERA. Yes, that's all true. But like, if he can average 92 to 93 on his fastball as a lefty starter, you know what? I don't think he's going to fall off that much. Yeah, his ERA will come up, but his FIP might come down. If he settles in that 350 range, 370 range, still a very valuable guy.
Absolutely.
So, but if his fastball is like 90 to 91, then I start to worry.
And I think the old Jonathan India being back, if he can be the Jonathan India that was with the Cincinnati Reds, the lineup, it's like, I mean, he or Collins, somebody has to be 350 plus, right? If they both do. If Jac Caglianone grabs on to right field, Carter Jensen's catching, boy, the lineup looks real nice. Okay, it starts to look really good, and then from a pitching standpoint, if Bubic is back and Cameron's what he looked like last year, and Cole Reagan's holds the way he finished up, like you said, Seth Lugo's back, like the team looks really good.
Yeah. The only reason
there's a lot of ifs, and all of them won't come through. I mean, that's the reality.
But they have some leeway there, because if everything comes through, they're going to be a 95 win team. So they do have some leeway there. The only reason I didn't put India is just because I don't know how much we can tell in spring training about that. Like he could look great in spring training and then just stink come the season. But I mean, one thing to keep in mind was that last year, like the second or third game of the season, he got hit in the head with a pitch. And, you hope that if that had an impact, that he just comes out healthy, he'll get back to his OBP ways.
Yeah. I agree that he could hit in spring training, and it doesn't mean that he's going to hit in the regular season. But if he's not hitting in spring training, that's not good.
He's not hitting in spring training. I mean, I don't know that his contract is necessarily guaranteed. I mean, you can release a guy and only pay, I think, a quarter of the salary up until opening day. So that would be an extreme scenario. But again, to me, spring training is so much about trying to avoid the worst case scenarios more than it is about some magical, player. This isn't the natural, some guy completely unexpected comes off your radar and makes the team or something. I'm just trying to avoid the bad scenarios.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, there it is, what we're looking for in spring training. We have laid it all out for you. And now some news here about Kauffman Corner, Rany.
Yeah, so I am going to be taking a step back from the show. I'm not leaving the show. But we've been doing this, I think, 4 years now. It's been a very eventful, very interesting 4 years to be,
We've entered our fifth, or at
Yeah.
least our fifth season.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah.
And when we started, I mean, Dayton Moore was the general manager of the Royals. We've seen them at their lowest. You have seen me personally snap on this show, and then we've seen them, come back with what I think will hold up nostalgically as a truly, special season in 2024, going to the playoffs, winning a playoff series. And yeah, I'm stepping back for personal reasons. Just basically, I've got two kids still at home. My life is just my practice is very busy with, being a dermatologist by day. And the weekly commitment was just becoming a little bit too hard on my personal life. But I'm not going anywhere. Like I'll still be on the show from time to time. We're already talking about the pre opening day preview. I'm getting revved up for that. But it's just it's a good time for me to not have to commit necessarily every week. And I feel like I'm leaving the show in a good place. We'll talk about that and what your plans are. David Lesky is fantastic. I'll be listening. Like I learn a lot from when you two are together on the show, and the show will continue every Sunday, hopefully. But I just want to say, like, I feel like very much at peace just where the Royals are right now. Like I'm, for the first time, like in so long, I was thinking about it. I'm like, is there anybody in the organization right now that I'm like trying to get fired? For the first time in like a long time, there isn't an employee that I'm just like, that guy needs to go. No, I actually, I'm very happy with where the organization is, the people who are running it, the infrastructure, from the coaches to the general manager. Not that I've done anything, but like I feel like I'm leaving the Royals in a good place, and I'm also leaving Kaufman Corner in a good place. And I look forward to coming on and talking still periodically. And if there's a big trade being made, I'll jump in for an emergency, or I'll squeeze in when the playoffs start for our daily daily playoff recaps. So
yes,
I'll still be around, but just not as much as I have been.
And I know you'll have the itch, and whenever you do, you have an open forum right here. You're always welcome to join us. It will be me and David Lesky moving forward. And this all kind of came together at the same time because Les Norman, we were doing the other half of the Kaufman Corner was with Les Norman and David Lesky and I on Thursday mornings. And Les is now, he too has family stuff going on. He's now coaching his son's college baseball team, one of the coaches on his son's college baseball team. And so it was getting more hectic for him. So this was all kind of coming together at the same point. And I'll be honest with you, 4 podcasts on top of 5 days a week, 4-hour talk show was getting really hard for me to keep up with, because there's, we do this and it takes an hour. There's another, hour before minimum that just on the stuff that has to be done to get it going. And then another, half hour or so after. And so there's a lot of time. And so for me, it was kind of like, okay, wait a minute. Rany's stepping away. Les needs to step away. This works well for me to just take it back down to Sunday. One day maybe, we'll add people and we'll be 7 days a week, 365. Right? Won't be me and you doing them all.
No, but, in 4 or 5 years, I'll be an empty nester, man. You might not be able to get rid of me. I might just have a live stream from my house 24/7. I'll have nothing else to do. I don't know.
There it is. Like at that point, we'll pick it back up. But yeah, we've already decided Rany will be here for our predictions on the season, our bold and daring predictions, and our numbers and where we think everything's going to be. So Rany's going to be here for that. We'll do that the last week before the season. Either the season opens on a Thursday this year, right? So probably that Sunday before we'll do our predictions. Rany will be here, and David and I and Rany will make our predictions on the year. And like we said, Rany will be here every so often. So just urge him on Twitter. Browbeat him. And get him to come back on. So it's great to know that Rany is still going to be a part of the equation, just not every single week. So, he'll just come in for the victories. I love it. The way it's going to work for Rany. David and I will do the heavy lifting week in, week out. But let me just say this. It's been great because you and I remember sitting and talking about this this is the 5th season. We've started the 5th season of it. And so what were we then? It would have been, so this is the 26th or 25, 24, 23,
22 when we started. Yep.
Yeah, the 22 season. And so covered a lot of ground, done a lot of cool things. And
a lot of cool guests,
a lot of cool guests. Yes. And it was always fun and always informative. So, like I said, always an open door for you to come back and join us.
Fantastic. And I intend to. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be around, just not necessarily next Sunday. So
yes, exactly. Listen, our great sponsors will be around. Make sure you support them. They're how we bring you the Kaufman Corner, like our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete for more than 30 years, solving parking lot problems. One contractor, all things parking lot. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. Our friends at Italian Delight, the first restaurant to bring true New York style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. By the way, I had strombolis, calzones, sausage rolls, and pizza from Italian Delight at my house for the Super Bowl. Mwah, chef's kiss to our friend Rany and his great staff there at Italian Delight. They did a phenomenal job. Don't forget daily lunch special starting at under $10. Our friends at Northland Injury Law, if you've been hurt in an accident, whether it's at work, on the roads, more than 40 years they've been serving KC, voted KC's #1 accident lawyers. Text HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. And our friends at Whataburger. If you're hungry right now, get over to Whataburger. They're open 24 hours a day, serving breakfast 11 p to 11A, proud sponsor of the Kaufman Corner podcast. For at least the last time, for a little while, the good Dr. Rany Jazayerli, I'm Soren Petro, saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.